Hi, welcome to Encounters with Australian Birds, Episode 3. Today we're going to have a little bit of a look at the Bush Stone Curlew, or in some parts of Australia known as the Bush Thick-knee. In parts of Queensland and New South Wales, I think, they have the beach curlew, or a stone curlew, which is a similar looking bird to the bush stone curlew, but not the same. Similar habits though, and the same sort of eerie call that is given mainly at night time. I first was introduced to the bush stone curlew, or the curlew as we call them, in the back country out near Renmark in New South Wales, in the sheep station country. Lots of gullies there. We were out there one night with the family and it was getting towards dusk, and we actually sat down in a ravine and had a bit of a campfire before we drove home in this little gully, and we could hear the curlews off in the distance. My father-in-law, my late father-in-law, told me they used to be very numerous up around Renmark in South Australia and in New South Wales, but not so numerous now. I've seen these birds in lots of times in zoos and things, but the only time I've ever really seen one up close and personal in the wild was in Darwin back in 2010, I think it could have been. Went up there for a trip, and at East Point out near Darwin stumbled across a pair that were just on the side of the road, and stopped the car, and sure enough they didn't move away. What these birds tend to do, they're very well camouflaged, and you can be standing right next to them and not even see them, and they either just stand there bolt upright, not with their heads in the air, but just standing very still, and they blend in with the background, or they lie flat on the ground and also blend in the background. You'll see some video and some still shots that I've taken of these birds. Also saw good glimpses of them on Kangaroo Island and in New South Wales, and in the Kyabram Fauna Reserve, I think it could have been, where we saw some of those. So a little bit more though before we get into the actual videos. At the start of this series I mentioned how I got started in bird watching, and my dad suggested I get a ground sheet and some binoculars to start watching birds. He also told me to get hold of a good book on birds to identify them, and I bought one called Some Common Australian Birds. I haven't been able to find it for this series, but it'll turn up sometime. And that's how I started to learn the basic birds in Australia. But as you get into bird watching in Australia, there's all sorts of bird identification books you can get. Some of them are really very good. The latest one that I've got is this one here. It's the Australian Bird Guide, and it is by the Birds Australia actually, and it's a wonderful little book. Well, when I say little, it's quite a good size and quite chunky, but it's not just one or two authors, but several authors, quite a number of authors have put this one together. And if we have a look in here, so I'd recommend that you'd get these sort of books if you are seriously into your bird watching and bird photography. And here it's talking about the Bush Stone Curlew. You can see just up here the one in the middle there. Whoops, where's the light gone? It's not very good, is it? Anyway, you can't see that very well in this light. But yeah, the beach stone curlew and the bush stone curlew. It describes the voice, a loud, far-carrying wail, wee-loo, sometimes given in chorus, often repeated in an exhilarating series at night to end in a hysterical jumble of screams, an evocative sound often heard on movie soundtracks. Quieter variations of wail given in contact, varied shrieks and growls in alarm. They sound very ghostly and haunting when you hear them at night out on the open plains in the dusk. Other ways of finding out about birds: our indigenous people, Aboriginal people of Australia, have an incredible knowledge of plants and birds and animal life, and this is a book I got up near Katherine in the Northern Territory, and it's called J1 Plants and Animals. The indigenous people that were native to that area near Katherine in the Northern Territory, where the famous Katherine Gorge and Katherine River is, they produced this beautiful book on all the plants and birds and animals, and it tells you all sorts of things. Their knowledge is amazing, and they have their own names for these animals. So the Bush Stone Curlew by them is called Curlew, and they have a powerful creation story. The Aboriginal people of Australia have their creation stories, and they say there is a powerful creation period story about Curlew. It has a loud, eerie call at night, and it relates to Curlew having lost a baby in the dream time. At night, when Curlew sees footprints of little babies learning to walk, it cries out in sadness. So there you go. That's your Aboriginal take on the curlew, the Bush Stone Curlew. So we're going to now have a look at some of my encounters with this bird, both in the wild and in captivity. And once again, thanks for watching. Spoon.